I think that is happy birthday to you, and also Stuart Seekings of Littleport is 4. Now, Blockbusters.
And here is the host of Blockbusters, Bob Holmes.
Thank you very much. Welcome to another edition of Blockbusters, and you join us in the middle of quite an important game, really. It's neither one thing nor the other at the moment, as you'll see if we look at the board. What I mean is there are 2 whites and 2 blues, but it's important for Ken. Now, he's Ken Hughes from Stockport School. He's our challenger, and he has to win this game to stay in the running, a fact of which he's only too aware, aren't you, Ken?
I certainly
Nice,
am.
smart suit, like that.
Thank you.
It's shot, I believe they call it, but we won't go into that. Let's see Amanda and Samantha back with us. Amanda Mills and Samantha Gibson from Clarendon House Girls Grammar School in Ramsgate. They are our champions, and they indeed won the first game in the set of 3. And indeed, Amanda, you called, didn't you, the letter right at the end of the last show?
That's right.
It was letter E.
Yes.
And I said it was a gorgeous question, and I've got it coming up now. So stand by. Here we go. What E is put on a driving licence as the... Yes, Amanda?
Endorsement.
You're right. Yes, well done. Yeah. There you are. Pays no trouble at all with that one.
Have the R, please.
You'll hunt the R, right. What R goes before in, off, noses, and shoulders? Yes, Samantha?
Rub.
Rub is right, yes, right. Rub in, rub off, rub noses, and rub shoulders. They're nattering away, and they've come to a conclusion.
H, please.
You're going to have the H, OK. Stand by, Ken. What H was the English king depicted in the Bayeux Tapestry? Yes, Samantha?
Harold.
Harold is right, yes, yes. Ken's really got to start moving now. They've got a couple of chances to make that connection across the board. They've got 2 spaces. They could choose one of them. Which one's it going to be?
I think we'll have the C.
Think you'll have the C? Right. Try and stop them if you can, Ken, with this. What C, at the time of the Civil War, was known as the chief... Yes, Ken?
Cromwell.
No, wrong guess. Amanda and Samantha, what C at the time of the Civil War was known as the chief delinquent? Hands up if you know. Yes.
Charles?
It was Charles. Charles the First, yes. Blockbusters. Well, and instead of a triumphant look, a look of sympathy towards our challenger went from both the girls. Ken, it's been a short visit, but a very pleasant one. I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been most enjoyable, yes.
Good, and I'm sorry to drag you all this way just for this short appearance on this particular show, but there you are. At least you've been in 2 shows, you can say that.
Yes.
You've amassed £20, but you've also collected, and this is quite valuable, the leather-bound information store, and of course the Blockbuster Dictionary, and the Blockbuster sweatshirt come cardigan. So I hope you'll take pride in wearing it. There aren't many of them around. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Ken. Well, now, it's a second gold run for the girls, One first gold run for one particular one, and of course that means that it was, I do believe, Samantha first. Now it's Amanda. First time you've been on the hot spot, you know what it's like because Samantha's told you. Now have a look at the board you're going to be facing. That's it, and we hope you'll be doing that, going right across that board within a minute. Of course, it's, as we always have called it, gold to gold in 60 seconds or less, and she gets £10 for every correct answer if she doesn't do it. So for your first time, Amanda, will you put yourself on the hot spot, please? Yes, just to repeat, gold to gold in 60 seconds or less. Tell us where you want to start on the left, and we'll start the clock.
JS.
Time at the beginning of the year when big stores clear their stocks.
January sales.
Yes.
RI.
Discredited name for the original inhabitants of North America.
Red Indians.
Yes.
ED.
Obsolete occupation aspired to by little boys in the age of steam.
Engine driver.
Yes.
KT.
Raft on which Tor Heyerdahl made one of his voyages.
JC.
One of our greatest landscape painters, born in East Bergholt.
John Constable.
Yes.
CM.
Original author of Absolute Beginners.
SB.
Stage name of the 19th century French actress called Rosine Bernard. Rosine Bernard.
Sophie Bernard.
No, 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 no.
LD.
Epidemic illness that caused deaths in Staffordshire in 1985.
Legionnaires'
Yes.
disease. HP.
Dramatist and screenwriter who married Antonia Fraser.
Harold Pinter.
Yes, Blockbuster! Have a look at this prize. Marvellous. Look at this.
High fashion and the kind of clothes you love but can't normally afford needn't be out of your reach anymore, Amanda and Samantha, because you've just won a Blockbusters voucher for the selection of top fashion of your choice. You can spend the money wisely on lots of different items or go mad and blow it all on something really special. Just make the selection you want from the look you're after and your Blockbusters fashion voucher will do the rest. Don't forget, the choice is completely up to you, and you can go for anything you like from a stunning range of up-to-the-minute fashions. Sounds good? Well, you'll look even better.
Well done. Very good indeed, Amanda. Absolutely splendid run across the board. I'll just give you those you missed out on. There were three of them. Sarah Bernhardt was the actress. Colin McInnes was the original author of Absolute Beginners. And it was the Kon-Tiki, the raft of Thor Heyerdahl. But you've got across there. You've got £180 each. Retake your seat and we'll carry on with the game. Give her another round of applause. Right, as I said, that's each. That's Amanda and Samantha with £180 each. And, of course, those marvellous fashion vouchers. And they will be doing a third gold run if they win the next set of 3 games. That big if depends on our next contestant. So let's meet Susan. Give her a round of applause. And indeed, just to fill in the bits and pieces, Susan Downs, yes, from Nuneaton, the Nicholas Chamberlain Comprehensive.
Yeah.
Is it Chamberlain or Chamberlain?
Chamberlain.
Chamberlain Comprehensive. Meet Amanda and Samantha. They're our champions at the moment. They are now going to aim for their third gold run, but you, Susan, are going to aim for your first. Happy about things?
Yes, thank you.
I must say you're looking happy about things. Good, you've got the finger near the button. So let's look at the board. And we see that N is flashing, so let's play Blockbusters. Right, girls, Susan, Amanda and Samantha, stand by with N, the first question of this round. What N is 10 plus 20 minus 11? That's Susan.
19.
You're right. Well, good. Nothing like a bit of quick mental arithmetic to start you off. What do you want next, Susan?
Have the D, please.
Want the D, right. What D, girls, do you keep when you wish to avoid familiarity or running into... Yes, Susan?
Your distance.
Yes, distance is right. Well done, yeah. 2 whites on the board already. Champion's looking a bit worried. What are you going to have?
Have a G, please.
Want the G, OK. Little squiggle at the bottom. What G is a silly, high-pitched laugh that's usually... Samantha?
Giggle.
It's a giggle, yes, right. So, having put one blue there, take another and try and
H, please.
try and get one on this. What H were the 40s of Victorian England? Yes, Samantha. Across to Susan. What H were the 40s of Victorian England? It was a period of depression, Chartism, etc. They were known as the Hungry 40s. The Hungry 40s. Hungry was what I wanted. Here's an alternative. What H describes a garden border of perennial... Yes, Amanda.
Herbaceous.
Herbaceous is right. Well done, yes. Right, 2 of each colour. 2 whites, 2 blues, and it's the double team's choice.
Can we take the P, please?
Take the P, right, to try and knit those 2 together. What P is the element that instantly decomposes water on contact? Yes, Susan?
Potassium.
Yes, it is. Potassium, yeah. Knew that without any trouble at all. Come into your...
Chemistry.
Chemistry. Ah, I suspected as much. Right, have another choice.
The L, please.
We'll take the L down at the bottom right. What L were cavalry soldiers armed with spears who... Yes, Samantha?
Lancers.
Who gave their names to a ballroom dance. Lancers is right. Good, yes. You've never danced the Lancers, have you, Samantha?
Not very often, no.
What next? Sorry to interrupt. I see your intent on...
C, please.
C, right. What C is the place for an aircraft pilot or where birds... Yes, Susan?
Cockpit.
Cockpit is a correct answer, yes. Well, both colours are massing on the board. We've got 4 whites and 3 blues, and it's Susan's choice.
I'll have to have the B, please.
You have to have the B, right. You don't have to, but if you choose to, this is it. What bee in India was the scene of a chemical disaster? Yes, Samantha.
Bhopal.
Bhopal is correct. Yes, that's a blue. Another mini-conference going on. A little bit of argument, dissension in the ranks, and a decision.
I.
Aye, right. Oh, dear. What eye do you take when you start something or take... Yes, Amanda?
Take the initiative.
Initiative is right, yes. Good. What a good game. Now, they've got to consider now.
Y, please.
Thought you might. Y at the bottom left. Step in if you can, Susan. What Y comes after back and Scotland and before stick? That is Susan.
Yard.
Yard is right, yes. And I wondered which flashing light we were going to see first. It is indeed the white one. It's fairly level pegging at the moment. You've got the chance, Susan. You're going to take it.
Yes, I'll have the F.
You'll have the
please.
F, so it's stand by to our champions, Amanda and Samantha, with this one. What F was Beethoven's opera about... Susan.
No, sorry.
Tripped on that. Amanda and Samantha, what F was Beethoven's opera about Leonora? Yes, Samantha?
Fidelio.
Fidelio is right. You got one, yes. Well, it stopped Susan in her tracks and has given them a distinct advantage. What are you going to do next, girls? Look at that worried look on their faces.
W.
With some disgust, she says, W. What W is grief or misery and is often added... Yes, Samantha?
Woe.
Woe is right. Yes, woe be gone. And another.
S, please, Bob.
To my top left. What S were the Arab people who opposed the Crusades? That's Samantha again.
Saracens.
The Saracens, yes, very good. And at long last, we've got the flashing blue light. Now, they've got a chance here, but of course, it's also a chance for the white. It takes some looking at this board, I can tell you that, but it is also a chance for the white if they take the one I think they're going to.
We'll have the T, please.
We'll have the T, so it's blockbusters either way with this. What T is added to wolf in order to identify the American kind of grey... Yes, Susan?
No.
Oh, you missed it. Amanda and Samantha, no conferring. What T is added to wolf in order to identify the American kind of grey wolf? Hands up if you know. It's known as a timber wolf. Timber wolf. Here's another, and it's just as important. What T are the hooks you find yourself on when in... Yes, Amanda?
Tenter.
Tenter hooks is right! Blockbusters! Oh, a hard-fought game there, and the champions got there, but only just. It was very, very level at one stage, and at another stage, Susan was a little bit ahead. It means, Susan, you got 25. They have 225, but then they've done 2 gold runs. And it looks as though we've got a second game coming up. In fact, I'm certain of it, but it won't be just yet. A couple of minutes' time. Join us then.
Aero, exciting biting.
Behind every van you buy from Malonian Roads is the unique Mercedes backup and support. Call us on Cambridge 891524.
I don't suppose you have a copy of Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley. It is rather old. It's by J.R. Hartley.
No luck, Dad. Never mind. There's still a few more to try.
Good old yellow pages. We don't just help with the nasty things in life, like a blocked drain. We're there for the nice things, too.
You do? Oh, that's wonderful. Can you keep it for me? My name, oh yes, it's J.R. Hartley.
People keep telling me what a pleasant surprise they get when they carve my turkey roast. It's delicious lean turkey breast. Moist, tender, and juicy. And just look how many it will serve. Slice after slice after slice. Plenty for all the family. And there's no bone and no waste, just great value. A turkey dinner for up to 4 people for only £2.19. Matthew's Turkey Breast Roast. Beautiful.
The Supreme Champion at Crufts 1987. Bred and shown by Chris Amu.
I just went numb. I just couldn't believe it, you know. Well, I had to just pick him up and throw him up, you know, because it's amazing.
Pedigree Chum, the food of champions.
He loves it, you know. He has 2 tins every night. Pedigree Chum's definitely got something going for it, because if he loves it, they'll all love it.
Pedigree Chum. No wonder top breeders recommend it.
Welcome back. So, we've got the second game in a set of 3 to play, one which Susan, our challenger, has got to win to stay in the running. She's sitting there, Susan Downs from Nicholas Chamberlain Comprehensive in Nuneaton. You want to do a career in advertising, perhaps?
Yeah,
Yeah?
if I can. That's what I'd like to do.
Good thing to go in for. You are a netball player.
Yep.
Do you play for the school?
Yes, we do. We got through to the All England.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's good, isn't it?
It's a good team, I reckon.
Are you a bit of a fanatic like those other two are about sport?
I don't mind. I do enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you enjoy it.
yeah.
And you work part-time in a bread shop, a cake shop.
Yes,
I don't know how you can do that. I adore to do that because the smell of baking bread and cakes, doesn't it make you pile into the cream cakes?
After about 3 hours of it, you've just had enough. Facing cream cakes at the end of the day is just an impossibility.
I suppose it is like anything else. What about you, Amanda? What do you do for a part-time job?
I work in a rather well-known supermarket.
Ah, is that names of members of the staff on that little bit of a placard in front of the old...
some of them is.
Oh, I see.
It's my little sister, Julie.
Yeah.
Gary's my goalkeeper at work, and his nan watches the programme a lot.
So he's your goalkeeper?
He's my goalkeeper, yes.
I
Warren's my famous striker.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd better mention Kenny Dalglish for him.
Oh.
And David's my boyfriend.
Oh, that's fair enough. That's an ingenious way of doing it. Thanks for the rundown. And Samantha, I don't know whether you do part-time work, because you're all mixed up in hospital radio, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. I used to do part-time work, pressure of work.
Which hospital?
It's Margate Sea Bathing, and it's the radio station's Viking Radio. I'd like to say hello to them because they were doing a marvellous job down there.
OK. Right, enough. Let's get on. Second game in the set of 3. Kay is flashing on the board, and once again, let me just say that Susan's got to win this one to stay with us. Good luck, everybody. Here we go. First question. What Kay was the composer of Old Man River and had Jerome as his... Yes, Samantha?
Kern.
Kern is right. Good start. Right. And it gives you the first choice of this round.
R, please, Bob.
You want R? This one. What R was the film that won a Best Director Oscar for Warren Beatty? Yes, Samantha.
Reds.
Reds is right. Well done, yes. In this transient world of films coming and going, good one to remember that. 2 blues on the board. Your choice this time.
E, please.
You want E. What E is the adjective that applied to the period from 1901 to 1910? Yes, Susan.
Edwardian.
Edwardian is correct. Yes, good. You always look so happy when you get one right.
Surprise as well. Can I have the F, please?
Yes, you can, right at the top. What F is a lie more serious? Yes, Samantha?
Fib.
No. And you'll see why when you hear the whole question, which goes to Susan. What F is a lie more serious than a fib? Ah, you can't think of falsehood, can you? Falsehood was the word. Here's another. What F are you if you are corpulent? Corpulent. Yes, Samantha?
Friendly.
Friendly. You could be, yes. Could be corpulent and friendly. Funny thing is, most people are. Susan, what F are you if you're corpulent? Fat. Simply that. Fat. Right, let's go for another. What F do you spite by cutting off your... Yes, Susan?
Your face.
Your face, by cutting off your nose, yes. Right, 2 whites and 2 blues, and your choice.
The D, please.
The D. Right, let's try and get them together. What D is the Keith who's an exceptional darts player? Yes, Amanda?
Della.
Oh, yes, you're no trouble about that at all. Della, yeah. She's obviously a darts fan as well, you can tell. But she's busy at the moment trying to think what to go next.
G, please.
G. Right. What G is any substance that imparts a shiny finish to food or... Yes, Susan?
Glaze.
Is right again. Yes, glaze. Well done. Well, 3 of each, and your choice again.
The M, please.
You'll have the M. Would help if you could get that, wouldn't it? Put them all together. What M is meant when you're told to keep your trap shut? Yes, Susan?
Your mouth.
Your mouth. That's it. Yes. Well done. Well, she's got a nice little section on the right-hand side of the board there. She's got a couple of chances to get top to bottom, hence the flashing white light. Let's ask her which she's going to do.
The O, please.
You're going to do that O. Stand by, Amanda and Samantha, with this. What O produces the feathers that go with... Yes, Susan?
Ostrich.
Ostrich is right, yes. Well done. Blockbusters. Well, there we are. £50 plays £240, and it looks as though it's going to be a decider. Yes, we've got a third game in the set of 3 on our hands. We're going to find out now who's going to go down there onto the hot spot. Both the girls are sitting... I've got to ask you this before we go into the game, Susan. A lot of people are going to write and ask us what accent it is, because you've got a distinct accent there. Can you tell us?
It's Bedworth.
Bedworth.
I should really say Bedworth.
Oh,
To
yes,
be
you should.
proper, but it's Bedworth.
Bedworth.
My dad will tell me off if I don't say that.
Will he?
Yeah, I have to pronounce all my H's.
Oh, do you really? He pulls you up on your speech, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, is he very strict?
No.
No.
I have to say that, won't I? No, he's not.
OK, right. Here we go. It's the third game in the set of 3, as I said. It decides who goes on to the hot spot. P is flashing on the board. Should be a good one. Let's play Blockbusters. Right, everybody. What P goes before haste to mean... Yes, Samantha?
Post.
Post. Haste is right, yes. To mean with great expedition. You got that right.
F, please.
And you want F. What F is an exact copy of writing or... Yes, Samantha?
Facsimile.
Oh, just in time. Facsimile, yes. Well done. Very good. Split second before the sound, and you got it.
T, please.
You want T. Try and pull the other 2 in. What T is a farmer who rents his land? Yes, Samantha?
Tenant.
Tenant farmer. Correct again, yes. 3 in a row. Decision time.
A, please.
You want A. This is where Susan's got to start moving to that button. What A is a colloquial, hyphenated word for any loser in a race, competition, or election? Yes, Amanda?
Also ran.
You've got it. Also ran. Yes. Well done. And they've got the flashing blue light. They've gone straight across that board with hardly any trouble, and they've got a choice of 2 letters on the left-hand side. What are you going to do?
M, please.
Want to take that M, right? Stand by, Susan. Got to get this if you can. What M is any object or weapon that can be thrown or shot? That's Samantha.
Missile.
Is right, and that's Blockbusters! Yes! And very regretfully, we have to say goodbye to Susan. She's sat there, she's entertained us, she's been a delightful contestant, she's won £50, and she takes also a leather-bound information store, a dictionary, and one of our smart sweatshirts. Susan, good luck for the future, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
OK, bye. Give her a round of applause. And as we say goodbye to Susan Downs, we move back to our champion team, Amanda and Samantha. It's their 3rd gold run, and that means it's going to be, is it not, Samantha?
Yes.
Your 2nd time on the hot spot. This is the board you're going to be facing, and we hope that's what you'll be doing, going straight across it like that. Well, not necessarily like that. Any way she does it at all, except that it's got to be within that minute. And she gets £10, of course, for every correct answer, should she not make that journey. Right, Samantha, will you put yourself on that hot spot, please? Steadily and carefully across the board, gold to gold in 60 seconds or less. Tell us where you want to start on the left. We start the clock.
DM.
Girl who twirls a stick in front of a marching band.
Dancing majorette.
Not dancing.
Dancer majorette.
No.
CS.
Famous Chinese restaurant dish whose name means mixed bits.
LJ.
Gents' ankle-length pants.
Long John.
Yes.
JP.
Vehicle on which John Denver was leaving in an old number.
GD.
Pale yellow apple that has been a great
Golden
success.
Delicious.
Yes.
BC.
Half affectionate name for grimy district in the West Midlands.
Black Country.
Yes.
ATG.
Historical conqueror from Macedonia.
Alexander the Great.
Yes.
UTC.
Novel that drew attention to the evils of slavery.
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes.
TOG. Story
Story of a chap who had no more twist by Beatrix Potter.
Taylor of Gloucester.
Yes, Blockbuster! Well done. Very well done. I must tell you, you went out on jet plane, chop suey and drum majorette, but it made no difference. You got across in ample time, and take a look at the prize you've won. This is it.
This colour television has a 16-inch screen and gives a razor-sharp picture. So, Samantha and Amanda, you can watch your favourite programmes in comfort. Though make sure the family know it belongs to you, or you may find them trying to swap it for the battered old thing in the living room.
Well, there we are. Give her a round of applause. Marvellous. That's a superb television set. I hope you're happy with that. Personal one for you and for your partner, plus £265 each, and those fashion vouchers you won before. So, thank you very much indeed, Samantha. Retake your seat and we'll carry on with the game. Thank you. Yes, indeed. We carry on with Blockbusters, not right now, but at the beginning of the next edition. Join us then. We look forward to your company. Bye-bye.
Four paperback blockbuster quiz books and a Gold Run book published by Sphere are now widely available in bookshops.
Something amazing is happening in Milton Keynes. The lid is off the new Courts Mammoth Superstore. It's an astounding new experience. Discover the huge choice of fine furniture, bedding and carpets. Discover the high quality, low prices, wide ranges and great ideas. For selection and style, Courts Mammoth Superstores really are out on their own. The lid is off the new Courts Mammoth Superstore, Winter Hill, Milton Keynes, now open.
Got the idea of the ideal home. 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 Got the idea of the ideal home.
You'll find all the latest ideas for bedrooms, bathrooms, front rooms, back rooms, garages and gardens at the Daily Mail Ideal Home Exhibition, Earls Court. Open 10 till 8, 10th of March to the 5th of April.
Got the idea at the ideal home.
Get there.
Gum disease is now recognized as one of Britain's major family dental problems.
New Formula Maclean's contains fluoride and now PA1 to help fight plaque, the cause of gum disease. Brushing with Maclean's can help protect your family's smiles against decay and against plaque, the cause of gum disease.
New Formula Maclean's. All toothpastes are not the same.
When you hear what's new, who's going out with who, and when you've got your favorite track, catch your favorite snack, snack a one, snack a two, snack a Twix twin pack. When the sun's shining, snack a Twix with friends, snack a smile, snack a laugh, snack a Twix twin pack. Golden shortcake, delicious caramel, thick milk chocolate, in Twix the longer lasting snack.
Dulux satin wood, the new look for wood.
All right, Stan. Going down the club?
Certainly am.
Hey, Stan, where are you going? Club's this way.
I'm not going to the club, I'm going to the job club.
Job club? What's that?
Ah, it's a bunch of people working together to find jobs. You get advice, free stamps, free telephone and all that. 2 out of 3 in the job club end up with a job.
No, it's not for me. See you later.
2 out of 3 in the job club end up with a job.
If you've been out of work for 6 months, the Job Club is just one of a new range of opportunities now on offer at your job centre.
Spectacular new production of the award-winning musical Annie, one of the greatest shows of our time. Smash hit musical. Book now. Theatre Royal, Norwich.
Read how Farrah Fawcett changed her cover girl image and about John Wells and his new comedy series. Don't take a chance on missing your favourites. Take TV Times.
Hello. About Anglia tonight, reports on the new wave of teachers' strikes to hit the region, starting in Essex today. Round Robin looks at the counselling service for victims of child abuse. And also in the programme, how historians are preserving old people's memories of days gone by. We'll be back at 6.
The news at 5:45 with Alistair Stewart.
Drug-running mafia godfather and his gang get 97 years. Prince Charles goes to Zeebrugge to lend his support. Mr. Kinnock tries to solve Labour's defence differences. And the best of the 20s get better with new discoveries. Good evening. A mafia godfather and 3 of his Sicilian henchmen who smuggled in Britain's biggest ever consignment of heroin have been jailed for a total of 97 years. Francesco Di Carlo, the ringleader and head of the mafia's London operation, got 25 years and was fined £250,000. Francesco Siracusa and Filippo Monteleone also got 25 years and Antonio Luciani 22 years. Old Bailey Judge John Hassan, who will get police protection for some time to come, told the 4 they could expect no mercy. He said they were wicked and evil men who peddled death and destruction on a mammoth scale. The gang smuggled £15 million worth of heroin to Britain, part of an international operation which handled more than £90 million worth of the drug.
After a trial lasting around 3.5 months, it took the jury nearly 15 hours to reach their verdicts. The 4 men stood expressionless in the dock as the verdicts were read out, guilty on each charge. Next to them, an interpreter translated every word into Italian. The judge, Mr. John Hassan QC, described all 4 as the big fish in a huge conspiracy peddling death. He said in some countries the death penalty would have been imposed, which is not difficult to understand. Here, he said, drug addicts are turning to crime and through sharing needles are spreading such diseases as AIDS. You are all wicked and evil men, he said, the sort of people this country could well do without. Throughout this trial, security has been tight. The judge himself has been under armed guard and the jury have received round-the-clock protection, which has cost nearly £1.5 million. The cost of the trial itself could well be double that. Robin White, ITN at the Old Bailey.
The biggest mafia trial ever mounted still continues in Sicily. 400 people accused of 6,000 offences, committed under the umbrella of the mafia. Steel cages confine them, armed policemen surround the court, protecting witnesses and guarding the judges. One major mafia figure, though, isn't here, a man who's killed, cheated, lied and bribed to escape justice. Until today. Francesco Di Carlo, the mafia's chief executive in Britain, with the godfather title of Don Francesco. During his trial at the Old Bailey, a witness was crippled for life when a car tried to run her down. Antonio Casara, the head of Sicily's flying squad who interrogated Di Carlo in London, was shot dead when he returned home 3 days later. Di Carlo owned Leo's wine bar in Streatham, South London, but his real money came from organising the mafia's secret drugs line spreading halfway around the world. From Thailand and India, cannabis and heroin was hidden in furniture, shipped to the UK and then dispatched to Canada. From there, the drugs were filtered through to the Caruana mafia family, who controlled the drugs market around the Great Lakes. Agents in Britain and Canada seized £93 million worth of heroin and cannabis, The mafia ring has now been broken up in Britain, but the organisation's believed to be already regrouping. Tonight, Di Carlo is in jail. With him, the men who every morning of the trial bowed and kissed his hand, paying him the respect due to a godfather.
Prince Charles has been hearing firsthand how survivors escaped the Zeebrugge ferry disaster. He met the injured in hospital in Belgium today and passed on his own thanks to the rescue teams. Later, relatives of some of the victims and some survivors laid wreaths at the water near the stricken ferry. The authorities say they'll now keep all craft away from the scene in respect for those who died. Here, the Disaster Appeal Fund has topped £500,000. That's on top of the £1 million pledged by the British government.
Before landing in Belgium, Prince Charles overflew the salvage operation. The Prince was received by naval commanders. They took him to meet divers who saved the lives of more than 50 people in 3 hours.
I was nearly crying because, you know, you have just 2 arms, 2 hands, and that's all you can do. And there were no other divers to help me in the first hour. Afterwards, I had more divers, but for a lot of people, then it was too late.
Prince Charles moved on to meet the survivors. Among those waiting in Blankenberg Hospital, 4-year-old Lisa Fisher. Lisa had been separated from her parents when disaster struck. At first, they feared they'd lost their daughter.
It went past the point of no return.
So they would never need to come to you.
The Prince had spoken to the Fishers after meeting doctors who worked round the clock saving lives.
You must be exhausted. We have recuperated, but this night, of course, was very difficult.
They introduced him to some of the patients saved by the Belgian medical teams. Prince Charles listened intently. His tour of Blankenberg's hospital, which had been one of 4 main centres for casualties in the disaster, ended in praise for the Belgians.
Well, I've certainly been enormously impressed by the remarkable organisation the Belgian authorities have had, and the fantastic efficiency of all their planning and pre-planning for just this sort of eventuality. And without that, I think it would have been a much worse tragedy, obviously.
And the Prince described the spirit of the survivors as remarkable. Andrew Simmons, ITN, Blankenberg Hospital.
The tugboat stanchions created a makeshift black cross behind which a huddle of survivors stood in orange life jackets. Everyone aboard had lost someone in the wreck. Priests from all denominations prayed with them, leading them at the sight of their loss in the 23rd Psalm.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou shalt prepare.
The chairman of the ferry company led the throwing of wreaths into the water.
We cast this wreath on behalf of all of us here in Belgium, and those who after this service will be with.
Standing watch upon the wreckage, the divers who are still trying to retrieve the remaining victims, their work suspended for the few minutes of the service. Relatives then gazed in silence at the scene of the disaster. As the tugboat circled the wreck, the escort and salvage vessels sounded their wailing sirens. The flowers for the loved ones lost still floated close to where they'd died. John Snow, ITN, Zeebrugge.
And now the rest of the news. A High Court judge has ruled that a baby girl born to a surrogate mother can be adopted by the couple who'd paid for her. The couple have had the child, now 2 years old, since she was born. The woman, they said, paid £5,000 to have their baby, didn't oppose the adoption. Mr. Justice Leahy said that although surrogacy wasn't a primrose path, he was satisfied that the child was thriving in a loving, normal relationship. The surrogacy laws, he said, were intended to be wise and humane. Commercial surrogacy is outlawed by an Act of Parliament, but individual women can become surrogate mothers. An MP spoke tonight of his concern for the welfare of surrogate children.
Child's going to feel, any child of a commercial surrogacy is going to grow up with the knowledge that its mother was actually prepared to have it and give it away for money, for commercial gain. That's quite different from a child that grew up with the knowledge that it was adopted. Its mother had the courage not to have an abortion, to go through with the pregnancy, and then because she loved it, to have it adopted by parents who would be able to look after it much better than she could.
Mr Kinnock has given Labour MPs a stern dressing down for the recent ructions over the party's defence policy. He told them that their egos and vanity could get in the way of an election victory. Some MPs thought Mr Kinnock hinted he might resign if they refused to discipline themselves, and his aides said Mr Kinnock was determined to carry on. The row overshadowed Labour's launch of a £6 billion plan to cut unemployment by 1 million.
Neil Kinnock is said by aides to be exasperated and angered at the defence row. The keynote of his speech to his MPs, as he told ITN, was that they had to show self-discipline.
There should be a certain sensitivity to the welfare of the party and the morale of the party. But self-discipline is the only effective discipline, and if people won't obey that code, then as adults it's very difficult to inflict a different code upon them.
And in that speech at the private meeting of backbenchers in the Commons, he went further, issuing what certainly sounded to some like a veiled threat to resign. He said, "If I thought that the party was so lacking in self-discipline or the will to win, then you would need someone else to set the example I have set."
Mr Kinnock went on to say that he did not believe Labour was that kind of a party, and his aides are this afternoon making strenuous efforts to deny that this was a resignation threat. Most backbenchers accept their word, and they believe that Neil Kinnock does indeed intend to carry on. Peter Allen, ITN, Westminster.
Mr Kinnock's especially angry that the defence row may have drawn attention away from the big jobs package he launched today. Reducing unemployment by 1 million within 2 years is absolutely central to Labour's election message. And their campaign director explained that things like new jobs in the health service and schools, a massive programme of housing and road renovation, extra investment in industry and much more job training will bring it all about. Total cost? Up to £6 billion, but Mr Kinnock says a lot of the money's already there.
The money's there, certainly, when we've got a chance of the Exchequer, who thinks that he can try and buy his way to an election victory by making tax cuts of £3 to £4 billion.
Labour is very conscious that the impression may be created that all this means more state control, more people working directly for the state. They say that up to half the jobs will come in the private sector. Michael Brunson, ITN, at the International Press Centre.
Dr Garret Fitzgerald, who stood down yesterday as Irish Prime Minister, has resigned as leader of his Fine Gael party, which he'd headed for 10 years. He was a key figure in the Anglo-Irish agreement, which he signed with Mrs Thatcher in 1985. At a press conference in Dublin, he said Fine Gael was facing more challenges, including one from the newly formed Progressive Democrats.
New leadership can best face these new challenges. This, then, is the moment for change at the top. And it has been my function today to provide the opportunity and the impulse for such a change.
Here, thousands of school children were sent home early because of the first of a new round of half-day strikes by teachers. 14,000 teachers walked out in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire for a march through Nottingham. The action in 16 areas is in protest at the government's imposition of a pay deal and the scrapping of the Burnham negotiating body. Mrs Edwina Currie, the junior health minister, made her first contribution to National No Smoking Day by throwing out all the ashtrays at a meeting in the Treasury. Mrs Currie later officially launched the No Smoking Day campaign.
14 million Britons smoke tobacco, and unlike the days of Sir Walter Raleigh, are always under pressure to give up. Today, campaigners for their hearts and lungs were joined by the formidable Edwina Currie. She's nagged us about bad eating habits and has now turned on smokers. For the benefit of the press, she blew into a tobaccolyzer, which measures carbon monoxide, and then wagged an admonitory finger at the smoker from the Daily Mail, who registered 5 times her score. As he gasped for a cigarette, she gasped with horror. The minister took my hand to explain an alternative to cigarettes.
Give me your hand.
Which one? That one?
Bite your nails.
And she also has to persuade her husband Ray to stop and become one of the 50,000 expected to give up from today. Simon Cole, ITN, Central London.
Finally, fans of the great Broadway composers are in for a treat. Dozens of original scores by the likes of George Gershwin, Jerome Kern and Richard Rodgers have turned up in America.
A New Jersey warehouse was the unlikely setting for a discovery that experts say is the musical equivalent of opening King Tut's tomb. Music expert Robert Kimball describes the moment.
And it was amazing. They were stored on the top of a huge storage area, and they were brought down, and we opened the cartons, and we found works by Cole Porter, Jerome Kern, Richard Rodgers, George and Ira Gershwin, and other greats.
When some other chap takes you aside, oh gosh, I'm all at sea.
Ira Gershwin's assistant, Mikhail Feinstein, came east to catalogue the Gershwin music that was among the hoard. Some of it, like this song, literally unsung before.
Loving you is what causes that.
Of the manuscripts that were discovered, many of them were manuscripts for very important and well-known songs, things like The Man I Love, I Got Rhythm, Fascinating Rhythm, which did not say Fascinating Rhythm on the manuscript, it said Syncopated City, which was George Gershwin's dummy title.
The music included hundreds of songs, even complete musicals by composers like George Gershwin, Richard Rodgers, and Jerome Kern.
I mean, to me, it would be like discovering a lost opera by Mozart.
And as they begin their work, the experts say, you've heard nothing yet.
Just as lovely. Ladies.
Ken Rees, ITN, New York.
Channel 4 News is next at 7, but from all of us on the news at 5:45, a very good evening to you.
Off to defuse a floating time bomb. A Great Yarmouth team gets set to tackle the ship that's been on fire off the Cornish coast for a week. And the first of the new wave of teachers' strikes. 60,000 Essex children are sent home as their teachers go to a protest rally. Good evening. Those reports coming up in the news. Also in the programme, how Northampton is preserving its past with old people's memories. And a new study of Cardinal Hume by the Portrait Painter of the Year from Bedfordshire.
And down at this end of the studio, they've built me a playroom. Has a very serious purpose, however, because in Round Robin we're going to be discussing the treatment of child abuse victims.
And we'll join Christine a little later, but first it's the news from John Bacon.
Good evening. A team from Great Yarmouth have been picked to try to put out the fire still smouldering on the Danish coaster lying off Falmouth. The ship has dynamite on board, and the salvage company say they can't start work until the fire is out.
The Hona Strand has become a potential time bomb. She's lying several miles off the Cornish coast, defying attempts by salvage experts to get the fire completely under control. At one stage, it was thought the fire was out, but when she was boarded, the experts picked up heat spots on their special equipment, which indicated that small fires were still smouldering. Now they can't touch her, at least until the fires are out. There are less than half a dozen companies in Britain who can undertake such a risky job. Nalsco in Great Yarmouth is one of them.
To tell you the truth, I wouldn't be sending our people on board that vessel if I thought it was dangerous. I feel quite confident that all safety measures will be adhered to and our people will be in very, very safe.
What sort of operations do you deal with like this that could be comparable?
We've done quite a bit of work for the National Coal Board, pumping gaseous nitrogen down to coal faces to extinguish fires.
How dangerous is this dynamite if it's near to smouldering fires?
It could potentially be very, very dangerous.
Could it set the whole lot off?
Yes, it could, yes.
A three-man team is being sent out to make the Hona Strand safe. One of them is 25-year-old Richard Mott from Great Yarmouth. He's what is known as a service engineer, a modest description of a job that requires a great deal of nerve and expertise.
Basically, what we'll be doing is pumping nitrogen down into the hull to starve the fire of oxygen. And by doing that, displacing the oxygen will just starve it, and the fire will hopefully be put out. So.
The equipment you're going to use is behind you. Is it very complicated to get the nitrogen into the ship?
Yes, it is complicated. You've got to be trained the proper way to do it. There is quite a bit of training involved.
Well, the ship has been described as a time bomb. Just how dangerous do you think it's going to be?
Well, I'm sure every precaution has been taken. We ourselves are a very safe company. We have very strict regulations and safety. So if it's a time bomb, then we'll secure it. there won't be a time after all, you know, so.
But there's 3 of you going to actually do the job. How long do you think it's going to take?
That's a matter of, we don't know. It just all depends on the job. It can be a week, it could be 2 weeks, we don't know. It could be a day. No one ever knows.
It's been revealed that the 2 men who held up a security van in Langdon near Basildon escaped with nearly £200,000, double the amount originally estimated. The men, armed with a handgun, struck outside Barclays Bank at lunchtime yesterday. Police want to trace anyone who saw a car waiting in Langdon High Road at about 12:30 with a man at the wheel. An articulated lorry loaded with £250,000 worth of tennis shoes has been stolen from Felixstowe docks. The red and white lorry was driven away from a road just outside the docks sometime overnight. The tennis shoes are Santana High Tech brand. Around 60,000 Essex schoolchildren were sent home this afternoon as their teachers joined today's half-day strikes. The action is part of a national protest at the removal of teachers' negotiating rights following a pay settlement imposed by Education Secretary Kenneth Baker.
The teachers' long-standing grievances over pay and conditions have been fuelled by a change in the law which takes away their power to negotiate. Even though most unions had agreed to a negotiated settlement within the Education Secretary's cash limits, they'd all wanted a new negotiating body. But Mr Baker's new law has left teachers outraged, and they're sceptical over government promises to return to the status quo after a period of peace and calm in the schools.
We consider that the teaching profession and the education service is far too important to be put in the unique position, almost going back to before the signing of the Magna Carta, that a body of people should be totally ignored and trampled over in terms of being able to negotiate their salaries and conditions of service with this particular Secretary of State.
The government has said, of course, that they will reinstate those negotiating rights, though, after a period of peace and calm.
Well, that's blackmail. I think that we cannot, the teachers of this country are not prepared, and you can see this from the strength of feeling in this hall and the support in this hall. Take that across the whole of the country, are not prepared to see their conditions of service, their negotiating position rendered into that sort of situation where the Secretary of State in situ can overrule, totally ignore and treat with contempt the justifiable arguments that the teaching profession has put forward.
Meanwhile, pupils in Suffolk schools will be without their classes on Monday afternoon when teachers in the county stage a similar protest against the government.
The Corby boat manufacturers, Cruisers International, are increasing their workforce by 150. They're moving to a new plant in the town soon and will be taking on 50 workers by December, with a further 100 being recruited next year. The company currently have orders worth £2.5 million. It's National No Smoking Day today, and a survey released to coincide with the campaign revealed that in Cambridge, smoking is as extensive among school children under 15 as it is in adults. The survey by Cambridge Health Authority revealed that by the time they reach 15, 1 in 3 children are regular smokers. Many children start at 9 years old. The survey, which was carried out at 5 secondary and 11 primary schools, also shows that children are aware of the risks but continue to smoke because it is the macho thing to do. Greg Barnes asked Ian Pynchon of the Cambridge Health Promotion Service how alarmed he was by the survey's findings.
Given that research has shown that the earlier you smoke, the more likely you are to contract diseases like lung disease earlier, we're facing those sort of problems in the future. We'd like to be able to try and preempt those sort of diseases, and so from the health promotion point of view, it's very worrying to find these figures.
In recent years, though, there has been a lot of publicity and a lot of campaigns against smoking. Why have they failed?
I think for a variety of reasons. One is that we may not have aimed the campaigns in the right direction. We can't scare children out of smoking. Another thing is that while we give out one message, they experience a lot of other messages. They experience parents and friends who smoke. They may see teachers who, on the one hand, are giving out the health education message, go away somewhere and smoke. So they see people giving one message and then doing something else. They see advertisements that glamorize smoking. They get a lot of mixed messages, which actually undermines a lot of what we say.
Why do they smoke?
They themselves say that they smoke because friends put pressure on them, because it makes them look older, because they want to fit in with their friends. I think also it's because they do get the adult models that show that smoking can be a good or glamorous thing. They see very important people around them, their own teachers, their own friends and family smoking, and that says, yes, it's an okay thing to do.
Some children as young as 9 are smoking, some 14 or 15-year-olds are smoking 30 a week plus. How do they afford it?
They afford it in different ways. Some at the age of 15 have part-time jobs, they can afford it. Others club together and buy a packet of cigarettes between them. Others use school dinner money, and others are given cigarettes by their parents.
John Gummer, the Suffolk Coastal MP, today agreed that a pressurised water reactor should be built at Sizewell, which is in his constituency. Parliament is due to vote on whether to go ahead with the controversial development. A public inquiry, the country's longest, ended with a recommendation that it should be built. Until now, Mr Gummer has avoided making clear whether he supported the project or not. He spoke today to Rebecca Atherstone.
Well, I've said that in advance of what the government will say, I don't know what the government is going to say, but I would say that on terms of safety and on need, we ought to have a further nuclear power station. The PWR is the right one. And there are a whole range of things locally we'd have to get right before it should be at Sizewell. But I do believe that Layfield is right, that Sizewell is probably the site on which it ought to be built.
So do you think your constituents then are in favour of Sizewell B?
Well, I've had a large number of meetings, as you know, more than 50 of them, to listen to my constituents. I've had a huge post which I've invited and asked for, and I've talked to very many privately. I think that people are very divided. There are those who are opposed to nuclear power in general. There are those who are in favour. There are those who are in favour of it but don't want it here. Indeed, I think I'd rather like to say that. I mean, I'd much prefer not to have the issue. One always wants these things done somewhere else. In the end, you can't do that. You have to make up your own mind. So I think the fact is that whatever way I make up my mind, there will be a large number of people who will think I'm wrong. So I have to try as hard as I can to make the right judgment.
Pollution in the sea around Great Yarmouth exceeds EEC guidelines, according to tests carried out by the Borough Council. Samples were taken in a joint experiment with Friends of the Earth, but the Council still insists there is no health risk.
Today's results coincide with a report compiled by the Marine Conservation Society, which says £90 million is needed to bring the region's beaches up to EEC standards by the year 2000. Previous tests by the Borough Council and Friends of the Earth have differed sharply, but results produced by the Council after a joint experiment show that pollution at Galston Beach is 16 times higher than EEC recommended levels, while samples taken from the harbour mouth are 29 times higher. Friends of the Earth, who say levels of sewage pollution are totally unacceptable, produced figures that were very similar. The Council have insisted previous samples showed no health risk, but more samples will be taken in April. The Council leader was reluctant to say what effect this will have on their holiday trade, but the owner of one holiday centre says he's never heard any of his visitors complain.
Milton Keynes Borough Council's Housing Committee have agreed to spend £8 million putting pitched roofs on an estate of flat-roofed houses in Bletchley. But there are no plans to start the work because the council can't afford it. The 1,800 houses have a history of leaking roofs. It would cost nearly £4,500 to repair each one. And now the plan has been shelved and leased until the next financial year. A Suffolk rector has won the first round of his battle in an Amsterdam court to recover valuable 15th century carvings stolen from his church 10 years ago. The carvings, worth £100,000, vanished from the parish church at Stow Langtoft near Bury St Edmunds. The present owner, a Dutch television producer, says he bought the 9 carvings in an antique shop in Amsterdam, not knowing that they were stolen. A judge heard the outline of the case 2 months ago at a court hearing in Amsterdam. Today he ruled that the rector, the Reverend Dr. George Patterson, can call witnesses to support his claim to the carvings. He says the decision is encouraging and the church is now launching a public appeal to pay for the legal action. A cavalcade of private hire cabs drove through Ipswich this afternoon, protesting at the council's refusal to grant more Hackney carriage licences. The cavalcade, with a police escort, drove to the Civic Centre, where talks have been going on between private hire operators and transport officials. Hackney carriage drivers have also opposed the move. Private hire drivers say they often assume the burden of 24-hour taxi cover without Hackney carriage status, which means they can't use official taxi ranks or pick up fares in the street. And finally, Terry Marsh, the Essex fireman who won the world light welterweight boxing title last week, has been given a civic reception by Basildon Council.
The banner said it all. And Terry Marsh, who won the title in his hometown, was at the Crest Hotel with his mother Maisie and his wife Jackie to receive the congratulations of David Harrison, chairman of Basildon District Council. Marsh was presented with an assortment of mementos, but his next fight won't be in Basildon. The new world champion is due to defend his title for the first time at the Royal Albert Hall on May the 27th.
And that's the news. Now the next rounds with David Brooks at the weather charts.
Thanks, John. Good evening. In the sun and out of the wind, the weather felt almost spring-like, but I'm sure that you weren't deceived. The shade temperatures this afternoon no higher than around 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit, some 4 or 5 degrees Celsius below average for this time in March. The wide shot from Meteosat shows clear skies over eastern England and extending down into Western Europe, and the main significant areas of cloud are well down to the south and the southwest. The dominant feature still that area of high pressure feeding in the cold continental air. The low pressures are trying to erode it in 2 areas, one down here and another one up here, but really they're not going to make very much change to that pattern in the next 24 hours or so. The cold air has penetrated well to the south and west, all the way westward to Ireland, down to the central part of Spain and even to southern Italy, where it's been snowing again today. And that blocked area of high pressure means that the real mild air is right down here and shows no signs whatsoever of making any progress towards us. That's the picture for the middle of tomorrow. High pressure still dominant, but as you can see, the winds are becoming somewhat lighter. So a fairly straightforward pattern of weather for the next 24 hours. Clear skies tonight with only very small amounts of cloud. The moon's fairly high in the sky. It doesn't settle about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, so clear moonlit skies. A widespread moderate to severe frost, minimum air temperatures anywhere between -3 and -5, well down into the low 20s Fahrenheit, penetrating frost right across the region, and a little bit misty later in the night too. Tomorrow really a repeat of today, a good deal of sunshine, very well small amounts of hazy, thin cloud, but reasonably pleasant. Temperatures perhaps even a degree or so lower than they've been today, 4 or 5 Celsius, high 30s, low 40s Fahrenheit. The winds fairly light. The outlook still very little in the signs of mildness on the way. That's all from me. Here's Graham.
Thank you, David, for that picture of the weather. The National Portrait Gallery unveiled a new painting in London today. The subject's famous enough. He's Cardinal Basil Hume, but the artist is Jeff Stulchins from Toddington in Bedfordshire. Jeff's commission was the prize for winning the National Portrait Award in 1985, and Peter Lugg, with others, was there to witness its first public showing.
2 years ago, Jeff Stulchins was an unknown artist working from a small private studio at Toddington in Bedfordshire. He first became noticed in the art world by winning the prestigious John Player Portrait Award in 1985. For his prize, he was asked to paint one of the most eminent churchmen in the country, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Cardinal Basil Hume. Many sittings and several hundred hours of work later, the portrait is finished and was today unveiled at the National Portrait Gallery in London to some artistic acclaim, not least of all from the model himself.
I think it's extremely difficult to judge a portrait if one's involved as the sitter. But so far as one can detach from that, it looks to me to be a marvellous picture.
You have been painted twice before. How does Jeff compare with the other artists?
Well, I was recently painted by Michael Noakes, and that was a very pleasant experience. But also being painted by Jeff was a marvellous experience because he's such an extremely pleasant person, and he's just enjoyable to be with him. And so, and he was very tolerant. He let me get on with my work, and he got on with his. And occasionally we both stopped what we were doing and chatted about life. So he's a nice person as well as a good artist.
The two men struck up a firm friendship during the sittings, which had to be carefully arranged around the Cardinal's hectic diary. According to the artist, his main aim was to reflect his subject's peace of mind and essential dignity.
We agreed very early on that
it would be better if he were working, and I wanted to paint him like that because it's allows me the opportunity of showing him in a process rather than looking at the audience. And it worked out very well. He concentrated and we talked to each other. I could get on with getting the information I needed. It was a very satisfactory state of affairs, really.
The painting itself, Jeff, you talked about keeping the context deliberately spare. What do you mean by that?
Well, I did a lot of research for the painting and written the books the Cardinal has written. I went through a couple of biographies on the Cardinal and got some idea of the rather wide involvements that he's had, both in Europe and in this country. I mean, he was abbot before he became cardinal. And I think at the back of my mind was just the idea of representing the sort of Benedictine order and presenting him in a simple space which could have a sort of universal meaning, i.e. could be in Europe, could be in Italy, could be here.
That report from the National Portraits Gallery. The last year has seen a dramatic increase in reports of child abuse, so much so that in many areas, Norfolk for example, there have been warnings that there aren't enough social workers to handle the workload. Meanwhile, efforts continue to bring the subject into the open and to identify children at risk. But what happens then? What sort of treatment is available for victims and how effective is it? For tonight's Round Robin, Christine's joined by child abuse consultant Celia Doyle from Northampton.
So, Celia, here we are in our kind of playroom set. Would this be similar to the office situation you would work in?
Yes, it's quite similar, yes.
Now, why do you choose to work in such a way?
Because it helps a child feel fairly comfortable, in some ways, at home. And also, I have the ways of communicating with a child directly available. I don't have to go out of the room to bring in some toys. They're there ready.
So they might absorb themselves, say, in the doll's house if they're feeling that you're getting a bit close to what they don't want to talk about.
Yes, yes, it does give them the opportunity to turn away and choose something that they like.
Yeah. Now, these children are coming to you with very confused signals, aren't they, about love and sexuality. How can you begin to help them?
I think by, first of all, finding out what they understand and what they believe, and then slowly and gradually helping them through games, helping them have a clearer idea of what's happened to them and a clearer understanding that they're not to blame, they're not at fault, that it was something very unpleasant that happened to them, but they can get over that.
Mm. Do they have to admit to why they're coming to you?
What happens at the beginning of an interview, I always check out their understanding of why they're coming, to make sure they don't think they're just coming for a play, but that there is a special reason and that they're going to receive some help. And I want to find out their feelings and acknowledge them.
I think a lot of us feel that if a child is abused sexually, they have no chance, they're damaged forever. Now, would you concur with that view?
If somebody has been made to feel that they're totally to blame, a totally dirty personality, very unpleasant person, then yes, they'll grow up into adulthood believing that. But if a child can be helped to see that what happened to them was strange, unpleasant, confusing, but it was just an event that didn't affect them as a person, they're still a lovely child, they're still a lovely, clean, wholesome child, and they'll grow up into a clean, wholesome person, then they've got a chance. They've got a chance, yes.
Could we explain about your special dolls, which to all intents and purposes look perfectly normal?
Yes, these dolls are what's called anatomically correct, and therefore they do have the genitals. And we use these to help children explain, because sometimes they can't find the words or they don't use the words. I had one little girl who said, when we were talking about angry feelings, she said that she was very angry because of what her stepfather did to her.
Yes.
And I said, well, what did your stepfather do to you? And she said, well, I can't explain. And I said, well, could you show me? And she said, oh, yes, I can show you.
Yes.
And she did. She clearly showed me using the dolls.
Yes. So do they sometimes vent their anger on the dolls? You know, the daddy doll, for example, if he's the baddie.
Yes, if we've identified the perpetrator. I had one little girl who the father was the perpetrator, and as soon as she identified the doll as the daddy doll, she threw it away. She was really cross and said, I don't want anything to do with him. It's not my daddy anymore, and threw him away. Yes. And threw all his clothes after him as well.
How long do these sessions take, actually? I mean, how long on average would you see a child that's been quite badly hurt?
For one session, not more than an hour, that's plenty long enough. And then, depending on the degree of hurt they've suffered, it may be anything from 4 sessions to about 6 months of weekly or twice weekly sessions.
Now, you spend a lot of your time, don't you, now helping other professionals in this work. There'll be probably people watching this programme, either parents who are afraid that their child is being abused by somebody, or perhaps a school teacher or a health visitor, and they may be thinking, if I bring this out in the open, it's going to be such a trauma for this family, perhaps I'd better keep quiet instead. What would you say to that person?
I would say that it's better that they do report it to social services or police, because that means that the child has then got a chance of some help. And also our research is clearly showing that quite a few perpetrators have gone on to abuse more than one child. So by getting the one child that, say, the teacher's concerned about help and identifying the perpetrator, they may reach out to other children who need the help as well.
All right, Celia, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. The past can be summoned up in a variety of ways. Lists of kings and queens, the economic history of the wool industry and so on. But until tape recorders arrived, it was very difficult to tap into that most fascinating of areas, the life of ordinary people. Northampton Borough Council's community programme has an oral history project which is recording for posterity the reminiscences of people who remember or can relate events that happened 80, 90 or even 100 years ago. Greg Barnes reports.
Fading photographs of a bygone age, the rat catcher with his cage and dogs, the drover's lad no more than 6 or 7 years old but already working for his keep, and the telegraph boy. This picture of a lad called Horace Smith was taken in 1914 when telegraph boys earned just 25 pence a week. And this is Horace today, 87 in March, and an important contributor to the Oral History Project. Horace's memories and those of other old folk are being recorded to compile a history of Northampton as seen through the eyes of the ordinary people who lived and worked in the town.
I went to Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, which was held on the racecourse. At least I went, Mother took me to the camp in the afternoon, not to a show itself. Yeah. Remember that was about 1904, something like that.
And what about street games? Can you remember the games you used to play?
Oh, yes, so tip-cat, marbles, hoops, all had their own seasons. And tip-cat was a bit of sharpened wood, end and you had a hole and you flipped it and hit it with the stick, see how far you could get. Hoped you didn't break somebody's window.
And did that happen?
Very often.
Northampton's main market square is still recognisable from the old photographs, but much of the area has changed beyond recognition. That's why the Borough Council's community programme is producing a series of books illustrated with old photographs and transcripts of interviews with the old folk to remind future generations of the way it was. The first will be a new history about Northampton's agricultural markets.
It's really surprising how many facts have actually come to light. For example, in the project we've done on the markets and fairs, we would be surprised how widespread the marketing network was around Northampton. And it was known that in the past this existed, long-distance transport and droving of animals from large areas. But it's still going on to this day. A lot of people that we interviewed actually started their working lives working with horses. And I think that is a huge change when you imagine the streets of the town without the cars and with animals instead.
Do you think that perhaps the people of today could have put up with some of the conditions that the people you've been talking to experienced?
I expect that, not knowing anything to compare it with, that they would. And in lots of interviews, people have stressed how happy their lives were, despite the overcrowding and so-called poor conditions, how much they enjoyed their community life in some of the streets that perhaps aren't with us anymore, and the neighbourliness and friendship that people experienced in those days.
The next project on the list will be a history of the Guildhall, an upstairs-downstairs story that will start at the top and work its way down to the cells in the basement that were still in use up to the 1930s.
We know that up till fairly recently that the town hall keeper and his family, in one case a man with up to, I think it was 8 children, lived in the basement of the Guildhall. And although we know that he's not around anymore, perhaps people who knew him or who knew other people that were involved in that life could come forward and help us. I know there were huge kitchens that serviced all the banquets that were held there. We want to talk to cooks and cleaners, anybody that had anything to do with that downstairs world of the Guildhall.
The Guildhall is an impressive building, but the real foundation of the Community Programmes project are the reminiscences of the people who gave the town life and character. People like Horace Smith.
What was the town like in those days?
Well, a very comparatively small town. It ended virtually this eastern way here. Where we are now was on the outskirts, right the outskirts. Matter of fact, the road outside here wasn't made up at that time, and these houses were not built.
Were times hard then?
Well, I suppose, yes, they were. I mean, my father at that time was earning about 28 shillings a week. And there was still short time at times, and at that time he was not on the staff, so he lost pay. And the times were very, very difficult, but we always ate well, and we were always well clothed. And my people, very particularly, wouldn't buy foreign meat, sort of foreign meat about in those days. You could buy foreign meat very, very cheaply, but very poor stuff.
And you enjoyed life too?
Yeah, I enjoyed life very well. Take it all round. Yes. Get ups and downs, naturally.
What do you think of it today?
Don't ask me, will you? I'm afraid I don't approve of very much today.
87, not bad, eh? And that first booklet on Northampton's fairs and markets will be published later this year. Well, I'm sure Horace would approve of his local radio station, because later this month they're hoping to link up with Radio Moscow for a series of programmes, and all that augurs very well for the future, doesn't it? Well, that's it until tomorrow at the usual time from all of us here. Very good night to you. Good night.
Next tonight on Anglia, the going gets tough at the Crossroads Motel.
Anglia, programmes for Wednesday night. At 7, This Is Your Life. At 7:30, Coronation Street. Bet Lynch prepares to get friendly with the bank manager. It's a three-cornered battle in Sporting Triangles at 8. And at 8:30, comedy with Simon Callow, Chance in a Million. Edward Woodward is the equaliser at 9, torn between two conflicting assignments. After news at 10, ice skating at 10:30. Action from Cincinnati in the World Figure Skating Championships. With a change to the advertised programme, another chance to see the advice show First Aid at 11:20. This is Wednesday night on Anglia.